Welcome to Leverage WordPress. In this tutorial, I'm going to customize the default 2022 theme to match the theme designer's sample site. You can find the sample design at 2022.wordpress.net. I'll be showing you how full site editing works in WordPress when a block-based theme like 2022 is activated. Full site editing allows you to fully customize all parts of the site with content blocks without using any code through site templates, blocks, and block patterns provided by the theme. Let's get started. Here's what the 2022 sample theme looks like. It's got a larger black header here, a logo, and a site title that has a nice rollover with a dotted line. It has menu items at the top right as a part of the header, and there's this interesting image in the header here. The homepage has a series of 3 blog posts with large featured images, each one clickable through to the blog post itself, and then of course there's the comment area. The whole site has a footer at the bottom that's pretty standardized but changes a little bit over the course of the site. There's also an About page that has a large dark colored header along with the same navigation and site title and logo at the top. And then it has a block pattern, which is a query loop block with 3 blog posts at the top. And then there's a call to action section for joining a mailing list where you would put a opt-in form right here and the same footer. And there's 2 more pages. There's an event page that shows the same top header, and then the title of the page is not here, but there's a header with some copy right here, logo, a 2-column layout with a large image. And then finally, there's a film page, which is more like a landing page. It eliminates the header with no menu or site title at the top, and it has a different background color. There's a call to action, a different full screen image, as well as a video, and the footer changes color and layout as well here at the bottom. Let's get started customizing it. So taking a look at this dashboard page, this welcome here, it has a dismiss button up here at the top, which is generally what you want to do after you've read that. But you can always get things back to your dashboard. Up here at the top right, you can use this little screen options drop down, and you can see if I click the welcome checkbox, that welcome comes back. And so once you dismiss it, it won't come back for you again. And you can control the way your dashboard looks by checking or unchecking any of these screen elements in screen options here. And so as we take a look at this, let's just go down and look under Appearance Themes and take a look at what we have here. We have the active theme showing at the top left always, and that's 2022. And it'll show customize if you have that theme activated. Now the next theme over doesn't show customize, it shows the activate button and the theme details where you can open a modal window up at the top here and get a little bit of information on the theme that you have available inside of your WordPress installation. And you can click activate from here as well. You can also close the modal over here at the right, and you can go to the next or previous using these little arrow buttons. Cadence is the next theme we have over here, and I'll just go ahead and use the X to close that, and let's go to the next stage. Now if you hit this customize button, that will open this editor, and you see it's so new that it has a little red mark here called beta, meaning that this is still being developed and actively worked on by many volunteers in the WordPress ecosystem. And it's really, there's not as many active sites using this type of editor, which is a block-based theme. But what we're going to do in this video and this section of the course is use the 2022 theme to learn about block-based editing as well as blocks within the WordPress editor, otherwise known sometimes as Gutenberg. Now, if you're using a block-based theme in WordPress, as the 2022 theme is, then it's required that you activate the Gutenberg plugin. Now, if I click plugins, you should see that should be active, meaning it's colored a little bit darker blue and has the deactivate link below the title of the plugin. So just go ahead and make sure the Gutenberg plugin is activated on your site. And then let's go ahead and just take a look at what this 2022 theme looks like out of the box. Now, this will be true of if you install WordPress as a fresh installation at any host. You will see that it'll install 2022 theme and activate it, and it'll just be a blank website looking like this. I'll roll over my sites, and under the name of the site you can click visit site, or at the top in the admin bar here there's also the name of the site and the visit site link. So I'll right click that and open it in a new tab. Now when I click that new tab, you can see that here's a live site, and it is pretty basic. The way WordPress comes out of the box by default is generally it'll show you a home page which shows the blog posts that are present within the WordPress installation or the website. And WordPress comes with one sample blog post called Hello World, and just has some welcome text. Blog posts are generally, displayed in reverse chronological order. So you'll usually see a date, a title, sometimes an author, categories or tags marking and categorizing those blog posts. And so you'll see the home page of the 2022 theme has a nice little graphic, and it has a header at the top with the name, which is clickable to the home page, as well as a menu that goes to the pages. Now, a post, like I said, if I click the title of the post, we can see that now the header has changed a little bit. It's now a white background instead of that dark black. It has the same menu and the name of the site over here on the top left, which clicks back to the home page. And then you have a title, there's a little dividing line, and some more content that we didn't see on the homepage because that was kind of an excerpt of each blog post. Now, below the content of the blog post, you can see the date, the author, and the category of this blog post. Then there's another little dividing line, and there's a comment that comes shipping with WordPress. This is a comment. And it shows you a little icon which represents if the person has a Gravatar or their email address is associated at Gravatar with their headshot, it might show here. And then there's a little reply button when you're logged in, and then leave a reply. This is a comments form, and so it's got the comments form here. I'm already logged in, so it tells me that I'm replying as this person, and the post comment button. Now at the bottom of the website there's also a footer. This is present on the whole website. Again, out of the box, this comes with a link back to the home page, and then a message that links to the WordPress.org project, open source WordPress, or otherwise known as self-hosted WordPress, which we're working with through this entire course. And so let me go back up. And let's talk about the difference between a post and a page just briefly. A page is more of a static content page within the website. Generally things like the About page, a Contact Us page. For a business website, you might have a Projects or Services page, and other general static content pages that stay the same all the time, unlike posts. And so in the WordPress environment, you've got posts and you've got pages. You can see on this sample page, there's a few different things in here. It's got a little description that comes by default, and then again the footer shows the same way. Also that same header up at the top here. And we're going to be talking about headers and footers and other global elements in WordPress that are site-wide staying the same. So if I edit the header, for example, that header will change on every page of the website. So I'll click back to home, and really that's all we have in a default installation with the 2022 theme. And so let's go back to the dashboard. I often like to have a dashboard open under one tab in my browser and the live site open in a second tab, so I can go back and forth and refresh the page as I make changes. But if I go back here into the WordPress dashboard, under Appearance, now I can click Editor. And this is what's unique and new about a block-based theme like 2022. And that is when you click editor, you are editing the entire site. You're not editing the content of any post or of any page, but you are editing the global elements, or what are called templates, and template parts that make up the different parts of the website. And the power of a block-based theme is that now, without writing or copying and pasting any code at all, you can control all the parts of the website using a block-based theme, including the header content, and the footer content. And with this system, you can have a certain type of header, like a black background header on one page, and on a different page, you could have a white background header, like all the other sample page, etc., on this website. And so let's take a look at the controls we have here. First, up at the top left, if I hit the WordPress logo up here, it toggles the navigation. And so this is some navigation for editing the different things that I can edit. And then this is the content area showing you a sample page, in this case the home page, and what that looks like. And as I roll over the different parts of this home page, you can see that it gets a little highlighting and outline in blue. And so if you can see that site is highlighted right here for this site. So this is, in this site, I'm looking at the home template up here. This is the show template details dropdown. So if I click that little arrow, it tells me the title of the template that I'm looking at, and it tells me what areas are contained within this template that we can change. And so this is the header. You can see it highlighting. And if I scroll down here, you could see that if I roll over this, this is the footer right here. And then there's some other stuff in the middle here. This is just an example of a blog post. Now, we wouldn't edit the content of a blog post within the site editor right here. We would edit that within the post editing page itself. And so you might have noticed, you can see, oh, browse all templates that exist on this website and within this theme. And that's the same as clicking over here where it says templates. And so if I click browse all templates there, you can see that the templates is highlighted within the navigation panel over here on the left hand side. And you could see that the templates that exist in this theme and in this website are right here. And it says added by, and this is the theme title 2022. And so you'll have all the themes by default, or excuse me, all the templates by default listed here. And you can see that they're added by the theme. And that's the beauty of block-based themes. A theme author or developer can create any number of templates that then the user can use to customize and make their website unique from all others. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with customizing this theme and this website using the 2022 theme. You can also see that there's an Add New button up over here on the right. And when we get to the point where we're going to create a new template for a certain purpose, like maybe we have an event, for example, or we have, say, something that that the business is going to have in their business that needs its own special web page set apart from the other parts of the website and looks different. And so you could click Add New to add a new template. And then so if we add a new template, this will be used as the kind of sample to start from as the starting point there. So when you do this, this says front page, and then you would save it here once you build the template for that type of page. Then once you create pages, you can choose that template and display them however you like. We'll get into this later, so I'm going to go ahead and click the W to go back to the navigator and then all the way back to the WordPress dashboard by clicking that little dashboard with the left arrow. And so remember, that was under Appearance Editor. And that is a good start, a tour of how block-based themes work. And so next, we're going to get into how we're going to customize the 2022 theme. We have a sample design to go from, and we're going to make it look like the sample. And so let's get into it. See you then. Now, if you opened up this 2022 theme site within your sandbox here, then your dashboard will look like this, and you'll notice that you probably have some images already populated within your media library. But if not, and if you're working on your own server and your own hosting account, you may have an empty media library here. And I've provided you in the course with a link to some media files that you can get, which I've prepared from the pre-designed site here. And so what I'm going to just show you is I'll just take in my File Explorer or the Finder on a Mac, I'm going to select these 7 images and just upload them into the media library here, so that I have something to work with to build out the different pages and posts of the website that we're building right here. But first, let's just take a look at this theme and where we're going to find the demo site that shows a built-out version of the 2022 theme. And so if I go to WordPress.org, I've got it open in another tab right here. I'm going to click Themes, and then if I just start typing 20, you could see that the 2022 theme is here. You may be aware that all the default themes that come with WordPress start with the word 20-something. So 2020, 2021, and here's 2022. And so if you just click More Info, you'll open a page that describes what this theme is all about. You can download it if you're using a local development environment or if you're using your own host. Now, of course, you can install a theme in your own WordPress website, as you probably know, by going to Appearance, Themes, and then clicking Add New. Now, in the sandbox, I am curating the themes that we're using inside the sandbox. So there's no Add New button. But this is where you would be able to add any theme that's in the WordPress theme repository over here. And so you don't have to open up WordPress.org and go ahead and download the theme unless you need to do that for some reason in your local development environment, or you want to take the theme and save it to your computer if you really want to look at the code and customize it and check it out. In any case, if we look at 2022 theme here, there's a little description and some data about it. But right here, for any theme, there's a link that they can provide to the theme homepage. Now, I've right-clicked and clicked Open Link in New Tab. And where this link currently goes is the GitHub repository. These are the contributors and volunteers that created this 2022 theme, glregstad, and it's been released in WordPress 5.9. And so down in the messages here, in the README file in GitHub, where they house the code, it's a code repository, it says that this theme has been merged into the WordPress core, and so it's no longer maintained on GitHub. And so the reason I went here, though, is so that I could come down here and find the demo site. While they were building this site, they created a demo, and it said after the theme's stable, it will be switched to automatic updates, which is where it is now. But there is a demo located at this address right here. And so I right-clicked and clicked Open Link in the new tab. And you can do the same thing, or you can just navigate to 2022.wordpress.net, where it will show you a built-out version of a simple website for a company that has an event page and a film page, as well as an about page and a series of blog posts. And so let's just take a look at this theme here and see how it's different from the original 2022 that was default out of the box, and how it comes in a fresh WordPress installation. And so if you look at the fresh WordPress installation, it's got the name of the site, and there's a menu across the top, and this is the header image that it comes with by default. And so if I go over to the sample, the demo site, you can see that there's a logo here now and like a little pair of binoculars, and it's clickable to the homepage as well as a clickable site title. And then there's also a series of navigation menu items that go to different pages on the site. And so that's the only difference there. And you can see if I go back to, back to this site. Now, there's really not any content as far as imagery in this Hello World blog post. But you can see that as I scroll down here, there's a series of blog posts with a featured image. And the featured image is also clickable to the blog post, as well as the date and some of the content of that blog post. And then here's a second blog post going backwards in time, and then a third blog post. And then we go down to the footer, which definitely looks exactly the same. Of course, the name of this site is different than mine over here. That says Greg Davis 2 is the footer on my site, and it'll be whatever you called it in the sandbox or on your own personal site there. And so the homepage has 3 blog posts, the biggest difference being that there's a featured image within each of those blog posts. So we'll have to create some new blog posts and add those images. And as you remember, back here in the dashboard, we have those images here in the media library. And so here's this image. You could see the size of the image, how big the file is, and the URL of the image right there. One of the easy things you can do within the media library is you can open up a modal window here. You can scroll through to each of the different media library items in your library. You can also copy the URL to the clipboard, open a new tab, and just quickly paste it to just get a version of that image. And that could be a way if you want to save the image from one website and use it on another. You could right click and say save image as, or something like that. In any case, back here I'll just close the media library modal, and let's go back and continue to compare these. So there's a home button, and that of course goes to the same place as these 2 items. And let's look at the about page. Now the about page here has a larger black background with a really large, nice looking heading and a big image on top of that black background. And then it goes to the white content area. And this content area is a section which shows the latest blog posts in a grid format. And there's a view all button here, which if you look down at the bottom left here in Chrome, you can see what URL you'll be going to. This view all link in the demo doesn't go anywhere because it's got just a hash symbol right after the URL. So if you click that, it basically just goes to the top of the page, same page. And so this is labeled latest posts, and each of these featured images you can recognize as the same images that were on the homepage, and they're clickable again to the blog post. This time, however, they're cropped into a square instead of being that rectangular image. And of course, the title is clickable. There's that same excerpt of content and the date. And then here's another section that says watch birds from your inbox, join our mailing list. And here where the line is, you would put an interactive contact form or an opt-in form to opt into your email list. And then there's the footer that appears the same on every page again. So let's just take a look at the next page. This one says event. And so here's kind of the a page that might be created for an event. This is a purposeful page. Here's a section that has a heading or a title, and it has a vertical large image right here, not clickable to anything. And then over on the right, there's an icon or an image right here, and some different typography, some some italics, and then a date and location, and then an address and a name of a place right here. And then as we go down, it's basically one big section about this event. And then the last one we'll take a look at is film. This one has a different color background on the entire page, doesn't it? And you can see there's some differences here. On this particular page, there is no header. Or there's no header at the top, so the menu is missing. The links to the home page and the site icon or logo and the name of the site are missing at the top. This is something that you might use for a landing page or a page where you bring the person to a certain page of the website that represents one thing you want them to do, like a call to action. And so you don't want them to click away from the page, so you eliminate the navigation and you just have whatever you need on this page. And this page is also set apart with a different background color. And so again, a nice heading, and then a second heading, smaller, maybe an H2, 3, or an H4, and something there, and a button, an interactive button that has a nice rollover effect. And of course, a nice image that seems to come off the edge of the page and shows the background color through that image. Down here, there's a different section on the same background color that has kind of a grid layout with some columns, a narrower column on the left, a video on the right side, and then as we go to the bottom, there's a footer, and now the footer does contain the same navigation links, and over here, the the recognition or the signature down here in the footer doesn't have the linkable WordPress word, as well as it's not in white anymore, it's in a different background color. And so you can see those are the differences. Let's see, if I go back to home, that takes us back to the home page. And so how are we going to make this look like that? You can imagine what we'll have to do, but your challenge now will be to open up your own site and begin playing around with it. Now, you might, as we go forward here, we're going to be learning how to use the different blocks, how to create posts and use featured images, and how to edit the templates with the site editor so that we can have different pages, like the film page that doesn't have the header and a different background, etc. And so let's get into that next. First, let's deal with this home page. All we've got to do is create 3 new blog posts with this content. And I can see that the header will look the same except for the menu item, of course. And then the footer is exactly the same. And so let's go back. Go ahead and here's how I would attack this task. I've got the home page open in one tab, and I've got the dashboard open in a second tab, and I have all the resources I need. I can grab the text of each blog post from here, and I can grab the images from the media library. And so as we go back to here, what I'll do is go posts, all posts, and let's just take a look at what we have here. First thing I might do is just put the Hello World post in the trash and add a new post. And now you can see this is the post editing screen. And there's a few things here that I could show you. This is really unchanged between a block-based theme and a non-block-based theme for full site editing. And when we go to 2022 here, what I'm going to do, the demo site, is just Control-C to copy the title, and I'll add the title right there. And now that I have that in here, I could click Save Draft if I want to. And if I click Preview, what that'll do is allow me to preview it for desktop or for tablet or for mobile, because we always want to make sure that the sites we design are mobile responsive. But you could say Preview in a new tab, and you'll remember I just clicked Save as a Draft. And so it doesn't show the real URL. It shows this little tag after the URL. It shows preview equals true. And so that's what this post is looking like so far. You'll remember the comments section. And of course, there's no content here yet. So I'm just going to close that tab. And as we go in here, just let me show you around before we bring all the content in. First off, over here on the left side, you could click these 3 little lines, and that's the list view of all the blocks that you might have inside of your post itself. So that's just something to be aware of. And then all the content that we put in WordPress sites is housed in individual blocks. And that makes it very modular so that you can put your content in there, and then you can rearrange the blocks into a different order, and you can easily export blocks to put them on different pages. You can create reusable blocks so that you can easily bring a design that you made into other pages or posts of the website. But wherever there's a plus button, it basically does the same thing. Add a block. And over here, this plus sign is going to toggle, again, another toolbar over here, which is the block inserter. And so if I do that, Now you can see that here inside of the content area, I could add any of these types of blocks. And you can see when I roll over any of them with the mouse, it shows me a preview of what the block might look like over here on the right-hand side. And so these are all the default blocks. They're categorized. There's text blocks here, just a paragraph. A list, there's a bulleted list. There's also a numerical list within there too. There's a quotation, a code block if you want to put code that won't execute on the page, tables, a pull quote, things like that. So in any case, here's media blocks. Design blocks are ones that allow you to take other blocks and put them in a certain configuration, right? So what you could do is you could use a row block as kind of a placeholder or a container, and then you can put columns inside of that container, and then inside of each column you would then put a different type of block, like an image. And so those are design blocks. And then widgets do certain things, so a list of your categories, a calendar, some custom HTML if you want to paste something, like a Google Map embed code or an embed code from YouTube or something like that. The theme section shows a bunch of different types of blocks. Like if you were going to put, say, a grid of blog posts, you might use the query loop, which goes and gets data in a loop. It'll go get a blog post, and then it'll get the next blog post, and then the next blog post, and configure it how you like. So you can start to see the power of these blocks and how they work. Now, I mentioned embedding a YouTube embed code using the custom HTML block, but there's also all of these embeds over here. So you could just embed it by simply pasting the URL of a YouTube video and putting it in there, and all these types of embed blocks down here. But not only that, there's patterns, and patterns are really the real power in a block-based theme, is that theme can include a whole bunch of design patterns that you can use that match the design that the theme has. And so in this 2022 theme, under patterns, you can start to see this is the featured category. And as I go down here, you can see that there's all kinds of different sections that are more complex layouts that you can just easily bring in. An image with a caption. If I just click that brings in that image with a caption. I can replace the image. It has a nice color, and you can see that that's easily usable. And so then when you bring in a block, and when a block exists in the content of a page, you can see that it has a control bar here up at the top. And so I can click options, and then there's a few options for this block. For now, this is a group of blocks. That's why it's calling it a group. And so because it was a block pattern, it's basically a group of blocks. So I'm going to click remove group so that we're back to where we were. So not only are these patterns visible in a row, in a column down here, they're a little bit easier to see if you click Explore. That opens up a window where you can just see them a little bit easier to see, not such a long list. And then that drop down where it said Featured, these are all the featured block patterns or groups of blocks. But there's footers. Oh, okay. So now you're starting to see if you want a different footer, you can just use one of the footers supplied by the theme that matches everything. And headers as well. You can see that. Do you recognize this header from one of the pages in the demo? I do. And you can see that there's all kinds of different headers included in the 2022 theme. The query block, like I said, it does things like brings in featured posts or a grid of posts, and some large title, offset. There's pages. These are complete pages that are block patterns. And so if you look at these, and they have a little description title at the bottom. They're an about page with a large image and buttons, for example. A page layout with image and text. A page layout with image, text, and video. Does this one look a little bit familiar to you? That was the film page, wasn't it, in the other in the demo site? And so you can see that there's the real power here of a block-based theme is that you can customize and design everything without any code or using any special CSS to change things. And you can make a completely unique site, but matching the global elements of typography, colors, and styles that the theme has within it. And so this 2022 theme has a lot of hidden features in these block patterns. There's column layouts, galleries for imagery. Here, there's a whole series of different types of text block patterns. And so I'm just going to close this modal window here. That gives you an idea of the power of block patterns. And while we're talking about patterns, just quickly, let's go back to WordPress.org. And there's a new button here called Patterns. And now these are patterns not from the 2022 theme necessarily, but from not even connected with any theme at all. These are user submitted and volunteer submitted patterns that are on the WordPress.org website. And so, for example, 2 offset images with a description. If you were to click that, you could see a bigger version of it, and you can drag these to see what that looks like at different screen sizes. You can see the 2 different images stack each other when you get to smaller screens. But the beauty of the block patterns and the pattern library here is that you can just click copy pattern, and now you can just paste it into a WordPress post or a page. Suppose I wanted to just go here into this post and just move the cursor right there and click Control V and paste that. I have that exact block pattern now in my website, including the images, and I can publish it. And so there's a real power in these block patterns. They're so shareable. And not only are they included in the WordPress.org repository, it's just going to keep growing with more and more patterns available, but the real power, like I said, is having these patterns available to you, inside of your website, supplied by the theme that you're using. And so, okay, let's get back to designing. Now that you know about that, let's put the image that needs to go in here. So at this blog post, this image right here, I know that this image is a particular kind of image. Now I'm looking at the home page here that has 3 blog posts. And because this is an archive of 3 blog posts, I know that these images are what's called featured images. So if you click it, it goes and it opens the blog post itself. And I'll bet that if I were to log into this website and look at this post, this image doesn't actually exist within the content area of the post here, but instead under post over on the right hand side here, it's under featured image, and you can click set featured image. Now this control bar over here for either the post or the block that you're looking at over here, this paragraph block potentially, is controlled up here with the gear icon. I can close it and get a full screen layout of what the site will look like, or I can just open that up. Usually I'll have it open all the time. So if I click set featured image, I can go to the media library and let's put the right image in. So for an area of hawks, it's this red bird with the tail. That's right there. And then I can just say set featured image, and it's uploading it there. And then I can either click Save Draft or Publish. And now this will give you, by default, it'll say, oh, are you sure you want to publish? It'll say, we've done, double check your settings. Okay, the visibility is public, publish it now, or do you want it scheduled, etc. Or do you want to assign a category? Were these assigned a category? Yeah, these were assigned a category. Birds, goldfinch, and sparrow were tags I can see by looking at the URL at the bottom there. And then notes was the category. Well, we don't have to do that right now, but I could assign a category. And of course, uncategorized is the default, but let's go ahead and create a new category called notes. If we're really going to match this demo site, that would be the proper way to do it. And sure, I could add some tags. Birds, goldfinch, and sparrow. Birds, you can separate them by comma. I just hit a comma, and that's what put it in kind of as a little tag with a X button to remove it. Goldfinch. Oops. Goldfinch, comma. Whoops. Well, something happened there. Let's cancel that. Let's look in here. Okay, birds, goldfinch, comma, sparrow, comma. All right. So now do I have that category of notes? Yep. Now I can click publish, and here's the checks again. I usually uncheck this box here. Always show the pre-published checks. That's what we're looking at, the pre-published checks here. So I'm going to uncheck that and click publish. And then that's what this looks like. There's one thing we're missing though, which is the text content of this blog post. So I'm just going to click there and hit paste. Now, if you're like in a block, a paragraph block, for example, and you hit enter, if you just start typing words, that's going to create a paragraph block for you. So this now is a separate paragraph block from this above paragraph block. And here are the controls for that block. And so you can actually change the type of block. I can transform it into any of these. Suppose I wanted a heading or something else that I could transform the paragraph block, I could use it there. If I wanted this to be a link, for example, I could click link right here, and I could, put the link in there and hit enter or click here, and then that's showing as a link, and it'll be a clickable link from the website. If I wanted that link to open in a new tab, I could use, let me open that again. I could use this little toggle, open that link in a new tab if I want to. There's some other things you could do with the text, like bold, italic, all these types of things here. So let's go ahead and if I highlight paragraph, if I highlight paragraph again, or even just click it, I could, and I click the link, I could unlink it if I want to, or edit that. But in any case, if I just go ahead and highlight it and hit the back button, I've gotten rid of that. This is the contents of the post over here, so I'm just going to click update over here. It gives me a message, post updated. Now if I click view post, now that's going to open the post in the same tab as I had my dashboard. So I generally don't do that very much. I'll often go over to another tab and then take a look, refresh the page, and see what I've got there. And so this is what the blog post itself looks like. Nice, it's got that featured image, and there's the tags, and this is the author right here, and this is the nickname of the author and how the name of that author is displayed. And so if I wanted to, I'll just hit back real quick just to get back to the dashboard. And then when you're in any editing page for a post or a page, you can hit this arrow at the top left to get back to the real dashboard. You can see now I'm on the posts page, and there's my post right there. The author shows again that nickname. Now I'm going to go ahead and either under users and profile, or in the admin bar, you can go under your username up here and click edit profile. Either place. Goes down in it shows nickname required, and you can display name publicly as. Now the only thing available is the username that I used, but if I wanted to, which I'll usually do, I'll put my first and last name in there. Now that gives me the option to use my real name as the public name in there, and then I can go to the bottom and click update profile. So now if I look at this blog post, let's go ahead and refresh the page. Oops. Something happened there. Sample page. Oh, I was on the sample page. So if I go to home, something's wrong here. It must have been from when I went and edited the site itself, because there's an empty template here. Let's do a little troubleshooting. Go back to the editor. Because I have front page enabled. Remember when I clicked add? Yeah, let's go ahead and let's see. How am I going to get back? I want to look at the templates. So I added this template here. I want to delete that front page template because it was conflicting with the template I have called home. And so now that I did that, the front page was deleted. If I look at home, now that's showing correctly. And I'm in the template editor here. So then I can go back to the dashboard. And as I go back here, I can just refresh the page. And that's going to show the correct template. And so now, great, I have one of the 3 blog posts. And so I'll pause the video here and add the next 2, and you should do the same. Okay, did you get it done? If you look at my posts page here, you can see I've got my 3 posts. One thing I just wanted to show you, I realized that I didn't mention as we were creating the posts here, when you add when you have your tag field here, if there's say, I was in here like this. When I was creating a new post, if I know that there's a tag I want to use and it already exists, I just have to start typing it and it'll come up with that tag. And when I click it, it will add that existing tag to the tag list of any given post. And so I'm going to back out of here. Of course, I didn't want to save any of those changes, and so my browser gives me a warning, and I can click leave so that I don't change anything. And you can see the author name, the category, and the tags, and then the date and time published, and whether there's any comments in the columns here on the posts page. And so next, what is next? Let's take a look at our site here. Now, of course, this header and the blog posts and the footer are the home page, and that looks pretty well finished to me compared to this one. But let's look at the next page. Of course, when we create these pages, we're going to have to add that to the header, and we're going to have to add this logo in here too. And why don't we take care of this right now? So next I might go into here, and we're going to have to go into the editor, if you remember. This is called the site editor, not a page editor or a post editor. And you can see there's a placeholder here, a very faint dotted line, so that you can put a logo in there. And I've gone over and used that logo. Now, as I click around here, you can see that when I roll the mouse over different sections, there's some different things happening here that are being highlighted. And sometimes it's hard to know sort of where you are on a page or in the site editor. And so that's what this list view is really good for. I showed you an empty list view before, but if you look here, these are nested pieces of content or blocks that can be kind of hard to find, especially if they're overlapping. For example, if you roll your mouse between these 2, there's a little bit of a space, and if you hold your mouse there long enough, that will give you a plus sign, so you could add a block in between the 2 if you wanted to. But if you go over here and roll your mouse over the different if you click on the different list items here, it will show you what you're looking at. And so the header dark small, and actually you can go ahead and use these little down arrows to or side arrows to open or close that. And you can even go ahead and you can use the hand icon here to drag these down and reorder things even within the list view. And so that's just a kind of a navigation lesson there. But if I was looking at header dark small, I've got the header section right over here, and within there's a row and another row within that row. Oh, you can see this row here is this one at the top left. As I roll the mouse, you can see where the site title and that logo placeholder are surrounded by that blue line. And now if you go down a little lower, you can see site logo. So if I really wanted to target that, I could click here in the list view and it selects it for me. Now let me click away, and if I go back up here, I can also, if I click enough times, I can get to there from the regular content area too. But sometimes it's easier in the list view to find things like that. So I'm going to click the Add a Site Logo button here, and I know that this right here, the logo in black, is the one that I want. And because it matches the background color, it looks like just a little white pair of binoculars there. Isn't that right? Yeah. And theme is set up so that that logo is clickable to the home page. So if I go back here, I've made that change. So I want to go up here to the right and click Save. And now this is a little different than saving a blog post. You can't turn this off. It does want to make sure that you want to save what it wants to save here, because I'm saving a site-wide piece of content, the header, which is going to affect multiple pages of the website. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So this is telling me that within the site, what I've changed is the icon and the logo. That's going to affect something on the entire site. It says these changes will affect your whole site right here. And then it says which template part am I editing? Yes, I'm editing the header template part. And that's usually going to be exactly what you want to do, unless you're like splitting a certain template into multiple templates or splitting it into a different page type. You might want to uncheck this at some points if you're doing something more advanced. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. Then again, down at the bottom, Site Updated. That means that I can go over here to my new tab where I have the site open, hit refresh, and now I have that clickable logo right there to the home page. Now over here, the menu isn't right, but I still don't have pages created to replace that. If I look at the website here, hit the logo and then go back to the dashboard, if I click Pages or click Pages, All Pages, you can see that the only page I have is that sample page that comes with WordPress. And so let's go ahead and create all the pages that are necessary for this website one at a time. This could be a good challenge for you. If you open up the 2022.wordpress.net, you could create an about page, an event page, and a film page. And that's probably the way I would do it. I'd create all those pages and publish them just as empty pages for now. And then I'll show you how I match the design that exists here in the demo site. So you might pause the video and do that, and then I'll come back and show you how I do it. So I'm first going to take the sample page and just stick it in the trash. And then, just so you know, when you put something in the trash, it still exists in case you need to reverse that. And I'm just going to leave that. But if you do click the trash tab up here at the top, you can restore that page to the pages list, or you could click empty trash. Now this would delete it permanently. All right, so I'm not going to do that right now. I'll just go back to all pages. There's no pages here, but I'm going to create those 3 pages: about, event, and film. And so just quickly I'll hit add new. Oops. I guess it doesn't matter what order. About, publish. You can see it publishes it right away because I unchecked that box to do the pre-published checks. And so then I'll hit back to the pages list, add new. Next one is events. Or is it event? Yeah, it's just event singular. Publish that one. Back to the dashboard from there. One more, add new, and this one is film. It's going to be an interesting one to create. As you saw, there's a block pattern that gives us that layout inside of 2022, which is interesting. And so, hey, now your challenge is to go through and recreate these 3 pages, looking through the block patterns, and see what you can find that would match first the about page here, and then secondly the event page, which goes back to white and has this layout, and then the film page, which has no header, a different background color, and also a different background color on the footer. Hint, hint. So see if you can accomplish that, and we'll see how you get on. And when we come back, I'll show you how I've done it. Okay, so if we go back into the About page, you might think that you just want to go in here and find a pattern, and you may have recognized that there's a headers section here, and we saw before that this pattern right here looks exactly right. You know, it's got It's got navigation. It looks right. So what happens if I hit update and then I view this page in another tab? You may have encountered this problem. Okay. So what have I done? I brought a pattern which is a header pattern and I put it inside the content of the about page. So the spacing is messed up, and of course there's a white section that says the title of the page, and then the other header is up here. Now, since the about page has a different header and this thing is a header, we need to treat this like a page template and then use that template for the about page. So here we are in Pages, All Pages. And if I click About, which we created before, all we have is a page title, and the content so far is empty. But remember, I want to add a page template, which will be the header for the About page. I know that over here, under Template, it's open it up if you need to, but there's a drop down here. The default template is the one that's on every page if you don't define something different. But I can put Page Large Header and click Update, and now if I look at this About page, I'll refresh, and you can see that it gives me that large header, and then the content area is empty. So it's even got the menu here for me, so that's a really good start. And now let's go to the About page itself and start adding the content that we need. So on the demo site, I know that I have a section that's latest posts, and it has 3 posts across. I want to look and see if there's a block pattern that matches this. So I'll go over here and let's open up the toggle, and for patterns, the first one I see here is the one, featured posts. It already shows my 3 posts that I have with the right pictures, and that looks great. So next, the thing I'm going to add is watch birds from your inbox and join our mailing list. Looks like a column layout. And so if, let me just open it up a little bit bigger. The one at the top left here, subscribe call out. And of course you would put an opt-in form right here on the right hand side. But as I look at this, you can see, and let's just check on the front end, on the real page, I'll just refresh in the new tab, and that's looking very good, but this is a little close, isn't it? If I look at the demo site, the spacing is a little bit bigger there. So what I'll do is just go over here and let me look for a block to put in there for space, and there's a spacer block that I could place right in there. Now it's here, it's in the wrong place, so you can either hit this up arrow or you can use this hand and drag it up into the spot where you want it. The blue line shows you where it's going to go. Now let me hit Control Z and undo that. I just really want to keep it on the main part of the page and move it up. That's where I want it. And for this spacer, if I look at the height settings, 100 pixels, yeah, that looks pretty good. That's probably the default. So if I hit update, and now let's look at the spacing, much better. That's pretty much it. That's the about page. And now the navigation is there. It's all looking correct. And latest posts, and then join our mailing list. Great. Now, looking at this latest posts block or group, let's look at it real quick. In this query loop, which is a post template inside of the query loop, you can see that if I hit query loop here, you can see some of the options on the right hand side, the settings for this query. It's going to query the database for a certain post type. And so that's going to be posts, or it could be pages, and plugins and other functionality inside WordPress might add other post types like services or projects, and you can create your own, which we'll learn later in the course. But this is the post type, and a page is a separate type of post. But then you can choose how many columns in this query block, whether it's posted newest to oldest, as in a traditional blog, and whether sticky posts, which are designed to be listed always first in any post list, are included or not. Or you can even just only display sticky posts. You can display posts from certain categories, like featured or something like that. You can do it from tags, from authors, or even with keywords. And you can also look at one level inward as far as the post template. We're including a featured image, we're including a post title, including a post excerpt, and including a post date in each one. And so each one will be repeated with whichever features you choose inside the query loop here. You also may have noticed that in this page, on the right-hand side, on the demo, there's a View All link, where that would link to the blog page, which would be a blog archive page. And so I can show you how to put that in there. Now, the way to do that would be, let's take a look at the layout first. If we look at what's going on here, let's see. The first thing we have is a paragraph. Now that's within this group, which was the block pattern that we chose. There's just a plain paragraph block in here. And so, you don't want to put a bunch of spaces or tabs or something like that. You could potentially type View All. Let's put a space right here. View All, and then just select that one and click Align Text Right. But look, that's for the whole block, not just for the piece of text. So let's put that back. Let's get rid of View All here, and I'll show you how I would go about making this change. So what I would do is I would add a new block right here after this paragraph block, or before. But what I'll do is hit plus, and let's go ahead and choose a column block. So if I go down here and choose columns, click right there. Now, because the cursor was here, it's going to insert this columns block right here below the paragraph block. And I want a 2-column block because I'm going to put, the title over here on the left in one block, and then in one column, I should say, and then View All over here in the other column. So I'm going to choose 50-50, and there's 2 columns, each with a plus sign. So when you click the plus sign, that'll allow you to place any kind of block within the column. So I'll do paragraph, latest posts, and now when I choose latest posts, I can go over here under the block selection settings over here, and under typography I can go lettercase and choose uppercase. That's how this one was created. And then I can go ahead and select this block and remove that block. Now I just need to fill this one with another paragraph block, and I can type View All. And now what I want to do is have this block here be aligned right. There we go, we're getting somewhere. Now we just need to put a link in there. So in order to, I don't have a blog page yet created, but to make this a link so it looks right, you can just place a hash character and then insert that. Oops, now I didn't have the text selected, so it placed the actual hash character in there and had that be the link. So what you need to do is select the text first and then click the link button. And now we're adding hash just to make it look like a link, and it's not going to go anywhere. But now I can just click update, and as I go over here to the actual page, there we go. Now I have the title here, latest posts of this section, and then this View All it'll just reload the same page or go to the top of the page. But that's the way the link will look to go to the blog page once we have it created. Next, here's our event page as it looks right now, no content in there. So if I open the dashboard and go Pages, All Pages, open this event page here, that's where we'll start. Now let's look at the demo site. As far as the event page, I'll bet you I can find a block pattern that has this 2-column layout with a title. And the page is event with the URL. So let's see if we can find that. Let's see, I'll just hit add. Let's look at patterns. Let's look at explore and see if it pops out at us. There's that pick, but it's a different pattern. Let's see, it's not one of the featured patterns then. Maybe it's a page. There's that pick again, but it's a different one. It's got black on the right hand side. There it is. All right, poster with right sidebar. So I'm going to click that. That brings it in under event. And great. Okay, now let's go ahead and click update and see what we have. So here, all right, now here's a little bit different. The difference here is that this is showing the page title with a dividing line, which is kind of default for the page itself. So what I want is to not show that right there. Let's see what we can figure out about that. So on this page here, under the settings panel on the right hand side, the default template may be blank or maybe page with no separators. Let's see, let's just do a test. First of all, we'll just see what happens there. Okay, so that took out the separator, but I still have the page title here. So let me go, let's see if blank works. Now blank may actually get rid of the header itself, so I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah, so blank gets rid of the header. That's something that we're going to use over here on the film page. If you remember, the header is gone. So we don't want that. We still want the header on there, but we don't want to show the page title. And so let's see, let's go back to default template. Now there is something I know probably will work. If I hit, let's try this. If I hit blank, and of course we know that that shows the correct, not blank, excuse me. If I hit page with no separators, then that's going to be closer. It just says event under event here, but the header looks correct, right? Yeah, that's the same header with the menu. Okay. Now we want to get rid of the page title, and so let's see if there's any templates in the site editor that we can look at. Open up this navigator. Let's see. There's blank. We know displays a single post, home, page no separators, page displays a single page, and then single post. So I think page is what is the one that we're actually using. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, it shows the post title, right? So really what I want is the post content. I want a page template without the page title here. And so yeah, I'd still want the header and footer on there. I have an idea. Now I know I can remove this from the page. So let's see, template parts, no. Under templates, I want to take the page, displays a single page. I wonder if I can duplicate this. No, I don't think there's a way to duplicate this template itself. That would be a nice feature, wouldn't it? If I could go to templates and then click duplicate. I'd like to do that, but for now, let's see. Maybe I'll go page, and what's this here? Let's see what I have here. So there's that's got the header. Then there's a group, and it has the post title, featured image, and a separator. And then the post content. Really what I want is just the post content. I don't even need comments. I just need post content. So you know what I'll do? I'll just go to templates. Let's click add new. Add a new template. And I don't want to add a front page template. Blank is something we're going to use later. I know when I added the front page template before, displays as the site's home page. Yeah, I don't necessarily want that. So I can't really change that, can I? Nope. Let's go back in here and let's delete this template. Yeah, I really want to make myself a new template. It's allowing me to add a new template, but only a front page template, not a different kind of template. You know, I could commandeer this one right here. What if I commandeered the page no separators template and I just edited it? You know what I could do is just, instead of no separators, I could make a page template for myself called page no title. And so what I can do is just remove the post title, save this template. The template's not being used anywhere yet, but if I go back to the dashboard and I go to the pages, now I can, on the, no, it's the event page. If I go to the event page, I can go and choose page no title. Oh, because I was using the no separator one before. And so let's update that and see what we have. Refresh. Ah, there we go. That worked. Okay. So it took a little bit of discovery to figure that out, but that's what you have to do in WordPress sometimes. There's multiple ways to do things. Another thing I was going to do was go in here and just remove the title and save the page. Now that's not ideal, because then when you look at your pages here, it would show no title right here. I've done it before, but it's not ideal. So now I'm using a particular page template called no title. That's great. All right, let's check again. Event, page no title. Great. I just kind of commandeered that. So I no longer have a page no separator. And that's okay. I don't need to necessarily use that template right now, but that made it match. Okay, no page title on there. That was a great solution. And after a little bit more experimentation, I did find a different solution where I don't have to commandeer another site template. So if we go back to event right here, if you ever get this attempt block recovery, you can go ahead and just click to recover the block. Usually comes right back. But on the page settings, let's just go back to the default template for now. And I'm going to show you how you can create your own template and customize it completely and then use that in any page or post. And so if I refresh the page on this event, now you can see I have the page title and the separator back again. Page content is the same because I'm using the default template now. And so let me go back into this event page, and very small little button right here under the page settings. Whichever template you have selected, just under it there's an edit button and a new button. So now if I click new, this gives me a modal window where I can actually create a custom template from scratch. And so what I'm going to do is select page, and I'll call it no title, just with no parentheses, just to differentiate it, and click create. And now it gives me a little welcome message, welcome to the template editor. You just click get started. Now it's actually showing me the event page, but I'm within the template editor here. So it's showing me the event page content, but I'm editing the actual template called page no title. And you can see some differences too. Here it's showing a different header than the default header, and it's also not showing a footer at all. And so I'm just going to click update, just to simplify and get out of this event page and go back into the actual template editor. So if I go back to Appearance Editor, now I'm going to open up that actual template that I created, and you can see that now it shows that it's added by me. It's not added by the theme itself. And so one thing I could do is I could revert this back. When it has a blue dot here, like you saw, it shows that it has been customized. So if I clear customizations, now that template is back to being page no separators, and that default template that comes with the theme is now available to use the way the theme has designed it. And so that's been saved there, but page no title is a new one, and you can see what it has is post title and post content, and then there's just a header here. So what I'm going to do is go into the plus button here to add a pattern, and I'm going to look for a header, and then the default header is right here. So if I just click default header, that adds that block pattern in, and you can see it added below the existing content. So really all I have to do is move it up with this little button, and I can move it up again. And now really I can just delete this content up here. This is the old header that came as I selected the new page template. So I'm just going to say remove group. And there's also a little line up here, a separator. So let me open the list view. You can see the separator is here. So I'll just use those three dots and click remove separator. Now I'm looking pretty good. I've got the default header. I've got post title, post content. And you know I want to remove the post title. And so let's see, I don't want to remove the entire group. The post content is also within that group. So really I could just click post title here. I could use either over here, I could remove the post title, or you can actually click the three dots over in the list view as well. And so now I'm looking pretty good. I'm showing just the post content, not the post title, but I still don't have a footer. And so let's add a footer. I'll go to block patterns again and choose footers that are provided by the theme, and I can see default footer right here. That's what it's going to be. So now I can just click save, and yes, I'm going to save this template. And if I go back, to pages, all pages, and click event and then display, I can show it. But here I have it open in another tab. So if I just refresh the page, there we go. Now I'm a lot closer. So the footer looks good as far as spacing goes, but you can tell that I need a separator here at the top to make it look like the default template on every other page. So I'm not going to edit the event page. I'm going to go back into the editor again. I'm going to edit my page template by clicking the navigation open, clicking templates, page no title, and now above the header I want to insert a spacer up there. So really I guess what I'll do is select this group, and I'll click plus, and I just want to put, I could find it by searching down the list or just start typing spacer. Do spacer, and there's my spacer, but let's move it up and move it up, and now it's above the header itself. And so I'll save this template again, and let's take a look. Oh, you know what? Let's just make sure that my event page, this might have been the problem with the spacer. Under event, I didn't click the new page. Oh, page no title. It is selected because I had created it from this button new. So that was correct. Okay. Just so, because I recovered that block, I'm going to click update. Let's go back here and click refresh. Now I'm looking better. I've got the, looks a little different though, doesn't it? Let's look at the event page. And so I've got the menu is even with the page title, and how much space I have is just a little bit different. So I might go ahead and go back and edit this page template again. This is something that you may have to do. just to make sure everything comes out correctly, let's go back in there, and you can see that, okay, there's these two things are now separated. So really what I want to do is, can I move that up? Now it's above. I actually want to place it inside here. Yep. And I want to justify it to the right. Okay, come on now. It says justify left, justify right. That justified all the items right because I have the group selected. So let's see, I have this row and the logo title and the site logo and the site title. Oh, I think I need two different columns in here. You know, it might be the easiest thing to do potentially would, let's see, where's this group right here? I'm just going to add that once again. Now this spacer is still here. So if I click the spacer, then I'm just going to click to add a block pattern. I want to add the header, and I want it to be the default header. That looks much better, doesn't it? The spacer's still there. And this space looks right, but let's go ahead and save and see if this solved our formatting issue here. Refresh the page. That looks much better. Now, of course, this heading is too large as well. And so there's some customizations here to be done. Let's see if it's the post content. Do I? Let's see if I can edit some of the post content. Inherit the default layout. I wonder if I change that. That could change it. Or I could go into the event page itself. I could click edit there. No, that's not right. Let's go back to the dashboard. And pages, all pages. Click the event page. Yeah, so it's the heading. Let's see what the difference is. I wanted to resolve the block. So if I convert it to HTML or convert it to blocks, after the conversion, align it to wide. Yeah, let's just say convert to block. This is in H1. I wonder if I go over to here, just let's do an inspection. I'm opening the Dev Tools. Click this little arrow and I can look, and it does say it's an H1, and it says the font is a certain size, 57.9 pixels right here. So I can remember that. An H1 57. So if I click the H1, might go over here and what could I make? I could make the size extra large. No, I could do a custom size of about 57 pixels. That's really gonna do it, isn't it? And it's still an H1, so then I could click update. Yeah, now under page, I could just click permalink and click that link to open a new tab. Now we're looking like it should. Here, let's close the Dev Tools. Like that, and then here's my page. Yeah, it is a slight bit smaller, but you can see where you have to fool around with the layout a little bit sometimes. This space is a little smaller too. So this space is a bit larger. I could go back here and play with this spacer. You know, it might be, I might just be able to remove that spacer because this default heading has a certain amount of space in it already. Let's see if that makes it. No, look at that. It removed all the space again. And so I still do want to place a spacer in here. Yeah, so let's see. Let me add a spacer back in, move it up, move it up. You can also drag the items in the list view here, but I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller, more like 60 pixels. Over here it tells me how tall it is. I can save this template now. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks about right, doesn't it? Because I'm logged in, it's showing the admin bar, so the spacing looks a little bit different, but that looks right. All right. So this is my page. I'm just going to close that tab. And there we go. I can go back to the dashboard. You can see that under Pages, All Pages, now I've created a special template by using this New button, and I've selected it, Page No Title. So you can create as many of these new templates as you want and use them on posts and pages to do these kinds of customizations. So even though there's a title on the page itself, so that when I go back to All Pages, I can see what's what. When I go to the page, it doesn't show the title, and that's the way it's supposed to look. All right, thanks for following along with that discovery. Last but not least, let's take a look at this film page. And so we have a different background color, a different layout. Now this I know is a block pattern that I saw. It was an entire page block pattern, but we've got no header. And then we have a slightly different footer because it has a different background color as well. And so we'll have to change the templates a little bit, but let's take a look. Right now our film page is just a standard WordPress page inside of our site with the regular white header and regular white footer. Oh, also the menu is down here on the left hand side. But let's go ahead and take a look. First of all, film, and let's just take a look at the block patterns that are available here. I don't think it was one of the featured ones, but it might have been a page. Was it whole pages? Yeah, here it is right here. Page layout with image, text, and video. I'm going to place that in there. And now when I want to remove the header, that's not that hard. I just, instead of default template, I go to a blank template. That's going to remove the header at the top. And then, of course, the footer will probably be the traditional footer down there on the blank template. So we'll see what we have to do there. Let's take a look at it. All right, we're really getting somewhere. Now, over here, yeah, it's a little different, isn't it? Yeah, I wonder if I want to bring this page design into an entire template. So actually now it's blank, so I have no footer and no header. So I think there might be a different strategy here for this film page. Yeah, let's see about just taking this entire group, removing it now, and we want to use a different template. So a blank template, maybe not. Let's just look at the default template and hit update. That's where it was before. This is going to bring it back into just a blank page like this. Maybe I want to bring the footer into the page itself. And then let's just look at the templates that we have first of all. It's an interesting problem-solving task. And click Editor. Let's look at our templates that we already have. That's the home template. Single page is the template. There's page no title. What's that's the default is this page template right here. Single post, and then there's a page with no title, page with a large header. So there's blank. You know, I think what I do want to do is, I think what I'll do, since I can't really add a new template except for front page template, would that free me up to use this template potentially? Let's take a look at this home template. Yeah, now this template contains a bunch of things. I could commandeer this template and then recreate this template as that home template. That would be one way to do it. But let's go back here. Let's go back into pages and bring that page layout into the film page content area first of all and use the blank template. And then I'll just add the footer to this page. That makes sense. If I go to patterns, and where was that? It was full pages. And here's the full page template that I want. Yep. Back to page in the settings panel. I want to use a blank template. And now, you know, I want to add a footer down here. So if I say plus, and let's see, just look for some footers. These are just a couple of footers. Let's browse all blocks. I'm just adding blocks here. No, I might want to add a pattern. I want to find a footer pattern that matches. No, it's not quite here. I want a footer that has a menu on the left and then, you know, that little message on the right. So, here's a colored footer. This is the one. Footer with a query block, a title, and a citation. So let's just take the... Alright, I added it. I added it in a weird spot. So let's just move it down. And move it down again. And move it down once again. Now it's at the bottom of the page. This is going to look good. Now let's use the list view so that I can get to this group here. And really I don't need the post template or the spacer or anything. I really just need this row right here. I might need that spacer, but what I can do is just get rid of this query loop. There we go. Okay, this is the bottom of the template. And then I have those two. So update. And of course over here I could add a navigation menu like I have up at the top. But let's take a look at my work so far. Refresh that page. Yeah, I'm going to need to make this heading a little bit smaller and then add some space at the top. But otherwise I'm looking pretty good. And this at the bottom, that looks quite good. Yeah, but I need the menu down here. Yeah, so I could add all pages down there at the bottom. So right here, what is this? It's in H1. Just make that a little bit, oops, make that a little bit smaller into an H2. And update first of all. Maybe a little too small. And no space at the top. So, let's see. I could go back to an H1. Didn't seem to get as big, did it? Wonder if that's going to be the right size now. And it's still nice and big. Anyway, a little bit different, but that's okay. I can probably really customize that H1 size if I want to by looking at this block. And I can customize the size right here. Yeah, so size extra large or size custom. Let's see. I still want that to be a header. I can even add boldness if I want to. So you know, you can see where you can play with this a little bit. See what 48 pixels looks like. Mm, 64. Pretty close. .68 looks pretty good. Let's see if that reflects the same looking size on the front end. Yeah, just need a spacer at the top. Whoops. Compare those two sizes. Yep. You guys know how I can add a spacer, don't you? Where would I add it? In this, just above this heading, I could just add start to type spacer. Yep, and let's bring it up. And let's bring it up. There we go. Leave a 100 pixel spacer there and see what that looks like. That's better. Now we're getting somewhere. Oops. Yeah, compare the two. Text is a little bit smaller. So, you know, this is what you do. Maybe go up to 72. Oops. Refresh the page. Ah, that brings it up nicely. Okay. Really getting somewhere now. Lastly, shall we add a menu down here to the bottom left? That's going to be on the page here. Let's go to the list view and go back down. So in this row, we have that paragraph. Oops. I see. Okay, so this is a row block. And what do we have over here? That is a site title block. So instead of site title, here's the group, yeah. So there's a spacer, and then in this row, there's a site title, and then there's another row after it, within the same row, and then there's that paragraph text. So really I want to take this row, really right next to this site title. What I'll add is a navigation. And then I could select menu. The system has been creating all these additional copies of the header navigation. So I'm just going to choose the latest one. Nice. Let's go back to the list view. That navigation, oh, that's navigation where I added the home link. And so that's fine. That's what this one looks like anyway. So I'll maybe get rid of this site title. Now we're getting somewhere. Perfect. Update. Let's see what we have. Nice. Looking great. All right, I think we have a good copy of the page. You can see how you have to experiment a little bit, especially working with this new interface, the site editor, and using templates, etc. But now we have a nice copy of the page. Now, of course, the header navigation is missing, but conveniently it's located down here, the navigation. So we've got the page with the blog posts, each of the blog posts, the title, and the featured image clickable to the blog post itself. Very nice. The About page has the large header. We're using a different template for that. And it also has a group or a block pattern, which was a group, and it contained a query block looking at 3 posts, the 3 latest posts in reverse order, and then a different group where we join our mailing list, and we can add an opt-in form there. Same footer as always. The event page, we got rid of the title by doing a little bit of sleuthing to figure out how we could make a template that did not have a title showing, and used that template. We also used a block pattern to match. And then finally the film page, where we used a blank pattern. So it didn't have, and then we compensated for that blank pattern by placing the footer in here using another block pattern within. And this was a whole page design block pattern included in the 2022 theme. Awesome. Well, that does it for matching our demo site. I really think that was a fun project. I hope you learned something there. This has been a sneak peek and a preview of the complete WordPress website business course 2.0 on Udemy. I hope you enjoyed customizing the 2022 theme, new in WordPress with full site editing. See you next time.